I would never actually do this, like ever. But I think it's really important for people to see how words actually affect people because it's really fucked up.
Sydney Sweeney just dropped an absolute bombshell on Ryan Reynolds after exposing his dirty little secret that was never supposed to see daylight. She wasn't even trying to start drama, someone else was running their mouth, and somehow Sydney ended up blacklisted from 3 movies overnight. So now she's done playing nice, and trust me, her revenge isn't just petty, it's poetic.
Euphoria star Sydney Sweeney broke down in tears on an emotional live stream.
So here's where it all went to hell on April 15th. 2025 Sydney Sweeney boarded her flight back to New York thinking she just nailed the biggest weekend of her life, the Glass Chapel panel in Paris. Was a full-blown triumph to critics. We're finally treating her like a serious actress instead of just another blonde in heels. Netflix execs were buzzing. Ryan Reynolds was patting himself on the back for finally doing something outside his Deadpool clown act. Everything was perfect until it wasn't.
Life changes overnight.
The fallout didn't hit with fireworks, it died in silence. She landed back in the States expecting headlines and scripts. Instead, her inbox went cold. No calls, no press requests, just a creeping sense that something had shifted.
Why is this happening?
And it all traced back to that one flight, that one overheard conversation 2 rows ahead of her. Ryan Reynolds oh so casually started unraveling the entire mythology of his marriage, not in code, not in whispers, just talking on a call like the cabin wasn't filled with people who have ears. He said it plainly. I was never her husband. I was the image, a beard, there was a contract. And in one breath, the whole Pinterest perfect Reynolds Lively empire crumbled.
Ryan Reynolds confessing to Blake Lively being his beard was definitely not on my bingo card.
Not just elsewitchery, literally no one had this on their bingo card. But at that moment, Sydney didn't react. She didn't even roll her eyes, but someone else did, maybe a nosy exec, maybe a gossip-hungry assistant. Someone connected the dots, and Sydney, conveniently seated within earshot, became the smoking gun, not because she said anything, but because she could have, and in Hollywood the threat of exposure is more dangerous than the exposure itself. Suddenly, she was too risky, too close to something ugly. Projects that had been greenlit were suddenly under review. Directors stopped responding. Her agent ghosted by half the industry. In under 48 hours, the official story, there wasn't one. Because there never is. That's the beauty of silent blacklisting. You don't need a reason. You just stop showing up. And Reynolds, please, he kept posting his cheeky Instagram stories. And pretending everything was fine publicly, he was still happily married. Still Marvel's golden boy. Privately, the walls were closing in. Marvel, who apparently runs tighter surveillance than the CIA, had already flagged him as a liability, not for cheating, not for drugs or domestic instability. But here's the kicker. Instead of cleaning up his own mess, they cleaned out Sydney. She became the casualty of his crisis management. She wasn't leaking stories. She just existed too close to the truth, and that made her disposable. By April 17th, the blackout wasn't creeping, and it was already locked, loaded, and quietly detonating. Sydney Sweeney hadn't said a single word, no denial, no press stunt, not even a passive-aggressive Instagram post. But in Hollywood, silence isn't neutral, it's dangerous. And in Sydney's case, it was treated like a crime scene. Internally, casting directors slapped the high-discretion risk label on her name, industry speak. For we don't approve, but we're too scared to wait for it. You won't find that phrase on a leaked memo or an email chain. It's the kind of warning that lives in whispered conversations and deleted. Texts pass around like contraband at power lunches. The first hit was polite, because Hollywood always starts with manners before it moves to exile. A Netflix legal thriller already halfway, cast with Sydney attached, just disappeared. No drama, no press leaker name, was silently yanked from the board and replaced with someone lower risk, meaning someone who hadn't been on the wrong flight at the wrong time. The explanation to her agent. Creative shift translation. She heard something we're not supposed to admit happened. Then came Dear the brand that had already shot half a campaign with Sydney in full couture lighting, styling, and post-production already in progress. They didn't cancel that would have required accountability. They restructured, which in fashion PR is code for erase her, and pretend she was never there. Internally, a Dior staffer leaked a Slack message that made the whole thing crystal clear. We're being asked to pull her. Visibility, brand neutrality, no press, follow-up again, no. Name, no scandal, no receipts, just vaporized, and the industry solution was simple: bury her, not loudly, that would trigger questions, no, quietly, subtly, strategically. So when Glass Chapel's New York premiere rolled around on April 19th night, that should have belonged to both leads, only one name made it to the carpet. Sydney had her dress or makeup team flew, and her stylist blocked out the entire afternoon the studio car arrived. But what she got handed wasn't a press pass, it was a guest wristband. No interviews, no cameras, no carpet. Basically come into the side door, smile from the shadows, and disappear. Her team tried to fix it. The studio blamed logistics, said Ryan's arrival time shifted, said media coverage had been streamlined. Not a single sentence included Sydney's name, and that's when she made the only move she could. She didn't show up. So the dress stayed zipped, the makeup went unused. Her stylist waited at the venue like a fool, while Ryan Reynolds smiled solo in a custom Armani. Number every press photo, just him every headline. Just him. Sydney, the actual female lead of the film, was edited out of the narrative like she never existed in fans. Oh, they noticed Twitter exploded. Why is Sydney not the premiere? Isn't she the lead? What the hell? Is she? One tweet racked up 90,000 likes in hours. This isn't a scheduling conflict. This is a racer promo material from just a week earlier showed her front end. Center arm in arm with Ryan headlining every teaser. Now not even a shout. Out in the captions, even her own team was caught off guard. No warnings, no heads up, just a vanishing act in real time. A leaked guest list confirmed the worst. She wasn't forgotten, she was removed. And then came the TikToks. An assistant from her glam squad posted a now deleted story. Imagine perfecting a metallic sculpted look for 4 hours only for the lead actress to get ghosted by her own movie. Another PR junior at the event. Lasted 10 minutes before her post was pulled when a producer says out loud, "We don't need Blake's enemies on this couch." No names were tagged, no accusations were made, but everyone in the room knew exactly who they were talking about. And Sydney, she stayed silent, the only person excluded from the premiere of a film she spent 8 months co-leading, because she heard one conversation that someone very powerful didn't want anyone remembering. On April 20th, Blake lively posted a carefully edited high-resolution image on Instagram. Ryan Reynolds stood at the Glass Chapel premiere in a sleek suit smiling at cameras. But this time he wasn't alone in the image. Blake was right next to him, perfectly lit, styled, and poised. A problem. She was never at the event. The edit was seamless, but metadata from the photo confirmed it was taken from a different shoot entirely weeks earlier in Los Angeles, not New York. Still, the internet didn't question that the image was everywhere in Minute 6 entertainment outlets. People, ET Online Daily. Mail Page 6 Alo and Just Jared published coverage. Within 4 hours, the headlines weren't subtle. Blake supports Ryan at premiere night. Hollywood's power couple reunites. Lively returns to the spotlight with Reynolds. There was no mention of Sydney Sweeney, not in body text, not in tags, not even in by lines or name. Had already been filtered out. The narrative was pivoting intentionally. What had started as a red carpet mystery was now being reframed as a personal choice. The press didn't say Sydney was banned. They said she pulled back for emotional clarity. Privately, the studio denied involvement in the photo's release, but someone close to the role out-leaked the storyboard for the premiere. Press Blake's team had submitted the image directly to multiple outlets as event coverage. A Netflix marketing assistant leaked a memo to a freelance publicist 2 days later. The subject line was a single quote: "She wasn't reduced, she was." Deleted attached was a casting log update. One line stood out: Sydney Sweeney, marked as unresolved discretion, risk, instability. Confirmed through non-engagement pattern. 3 days later, on April 23rd, Sydney joined a video call. Present her agent, a Netflix legal advisor, a studio PR manager, and a rep from Blake Lively's public relations firm. No introductions, no pleasantries. The tone was clinical. The goal was simple: eliminate the mess. Without headlines, Sydney was offered a single payment settlement, a financial sum tied to a creative contribution clause for Glass Chapel in exchange for one signature, a non-disparagement agreement with an 18-month gag order. The terms were airtight. No public comments, no interviews, no reference to the premiere of The Flight or Blake. Sydney said nothing for almost a full minute. Then she asked, "Did Blake send this?" The rep from the PR firm tilted her head and smiled. She didn't confirm, but she didn't deny it. No one else spoke. Sydney didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She just closed the laptop. 2 hours later, her team received a notice from the marketing department. Sydney's name had been removed from all promotion materials associated with Glass Chapel. Her quotes were stripped from press kits. Her interview slots were canceled. Her poster billing was withdrawn. Netflix's official Instagram deleted 3 posts that featured her image. The decision was final. That night, a gossip account on X, formerly Twitter, posted a cryptic update. Heard a certain actress declined a peace clause this week. Not a great look. when all you had to do was sign and smile. 10 minutes later, a comment appeared under the post's verified short "though." It came from Blake Lively's stylist. It was deleted within minutes, but screenshots spread instantly. That was a spark. By morning, the hashtag "she didn't sign" had over 2 million mentions. Fans started reposting old interviews, red carpet clips, and screenshots from Netflix's original trailer, showing Sydney next to Ryan. Then they posted the updated press assets. In every new image, Sydney had vanished. No caption was needed. The internet handled the rest. By April 25th, a grainy photo of Sydney Sweeney sitting across from Reese Witherspoon at the Polo Lounge in Beverly Hills hit Reddit no. Publicists, no assistants, just the two of them mid-con conversation. No smiles. Reese had been in Sydney's shoes before a public, carefully orchestrated PR takedown, and she'd survived it. A decade earlier, she'd gone head-to-head with Blake Lively's team over a failed joint project. The press buried it. Reese didn't. This lunch wasn't announced. But people were paying attention. Within 24 hours, speculation hit every blind item blog. The most consistent rumor, Apple TV Plus, had entered early development on a new, limited series. Nicole Kidman producing, re-executive directing Sydney Sweeney. Tentatively attached to star. No official confirmation, no contracts leaked, but 3 casting trackers flagged the project. Internally, a PR strategist at one agency called it the Witherspoon pivot. Quiet, calculated, undeniably effective. Blake's team responded not with a statement, but with a story, a reposted quote card over a photo of wine. And sunflower. Some people chase truth, others sell it. No mention of Sydney, no tags, but the subtext wasn't subtle. It didn't work. The comments were swarmed with 2 words she didn't sign. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds was facing his own collapse. Reports emerged from internal calls with the studio backing his next film. 2 key investors had quietly pulled out. Their reason wasn't public, but one executive involved in the call leaked a line from a meeting. There's a perception shift. The Sydney fallout is sticky in key markets. Ryan hadn't posted in 3 days. No memes, no promo, nothing. A fan account tagged him with a screenshot of his old tweets, caption, "Where's this? Energy now?" No reply, but Blake liked to comment. Another leak followed, this time from a transcript of an internal PR call. When asked if he could re-engage the audience for his next release, Ryan said, "This wasn't my play." One rep replied, "Then maybe you should have kept your mouth shut on that flight." He didn't respond. By April 29th, Glass Chapel had quietly slipped out of Netflix's top 10. The platform hadn't pushed a second wave of promo, no behind-the-scenes reels, no director interviews, no final press run. Sydney's fan edits were outperforming the studio's official content. On TikTok, a video set the haunting piano music showed a still of Ryan walking alone, then a fade to the original press photo with Sydney beside him, caption, "Look closer." They cut her out at 3. 4 million views in 18 hours, the Prairie agency behind Blake's last Netflix campaign terminated their contract 2 days later. Official reason, creative differences. But internally, a staff member shared the final Slack message. "We're done covering tracks. Let her do it herself." But now Sydney Sweeney has officially broken her silence. And this time, there's no NDA, no PR filter, and no backroom deals standing in the way. After months of being erased, ghosted, flagged, and pushed to the sidelines without ever being told why she's done playing polite, the whispers try to bury her, but she's turning every one of them into receipts. In a bombshell announcement released by Ashman Network, known for pulling no punches, Sydney confirmed that she's sitting down for a tell-all interview that will cover everything: the flight, the snub, the casting blacklist, and most importantly, the contract marriage. She never asked to be dragged into. Sydney didn't mince words in her official statement. "I stayed quiet because I thought silence would protect me." It didn't. Just protected them. According to RTM insiders, the full interview drops next week, and it's already being called the most anticipated sit-down since Meghan and Harry shook Buckingham Palace. Producers confirmed Sydney will be naming names, walking through exact timelines, and backing every claim with documents, call logs, and direct quotes she was too afraid to share before. She's not speculating, she's showing her work. This isn't a PR stunt. It's a public reckoning. The same studios that erased her name are now scrambling to prepare statements. Blake Lively's team has gone radio silent. Ryan Reynolds hasn't commented, and the Marvel connection, RTM confirmed Sydney will address it heating, revealing how industry pressure, image contracts, and brand marriages are used to manipulate careers and silence inconvenient witnesses. The Hollywood machine thought Sydney would fold. Instead, she's fighting back with proof in this time. The spotlight belongs to her. Sydney didn't just survive the silence. She's rewriting the script. Drop a comment if you're ready to hear her uncut truth.